Okay, today we start traveling brochure on page 297. And what we have is our client is a travel agency that is creating a set of brochures to promote a series of travel packages. The client wants to create a letterfold rack brochure for Australian tourism. The job includes a relatively small amount of copy, a number of images, and a basic form that people can fill out and enter to win a free trip. A common technique for gathering potential clients' contact information. So that's what you're looking at here. And then next, what we're going to do is talk about the project meeting as though we were in the meeting on the next page, on page 298. So we are planning a new series of promotional brochures that will need to fit into a standard rack holders, which means the finished size would need to be 4 inches wide by 9 inches high. Now, I will share with you that having worked for the Joshua Tree Chamber for over 3 years, this is really common to have this kind of brochure placed in the California Welcome Center in Yucca Valley. Most of the online printing companies are more than happy to print out and fold for you rack cards of this size. So just be aware that they are here locally, and this is a normal design size for this type of promotion. Okay, a letterfold gives us 3 panels on each side, which should be plenty space for the information we want to include. The brochure will mostly be handouts for people who walk into our office or visit our booth at trade shows, but some will be mailed, so we want the brochure to be a self-mailer. These brochures will mostly be visual with a little bit of descriptive copy. We're sending you the text and images for the Australian brochure first because that's the only way that it can be finalized. We went back and forth for weeks over the styles for our other collateral, and we were all finally happy with the results of the other pieces your agency designed. We want to use the same formatting in these brochures that you used in all our other jobs. Okay, let's take a look. A lot of people design folding documents incorrectly. Some use a 6-page layout with each page size being the same in the final fold job. Others use 2 pages, each divided into 3 equal columns. In both cases, all panels of the job are the exact same width, which is wrong. For a letter fold, the job needs to have one panel narrower than the others. Plus, each side of the brochure has to mirror the others so that the narrow panel is correctly located when the job is printed and trimmed and folded. And this is a big error that most people make. And luckily, InDesign does a really nice job of doing it correctly. And that's what this whole chapter is about. The last item to remember is that this brochure will be a self-mailer. The back panel needs to have a blank area with only the return address in the upper left-hand corner. And that we will be doing as well. Okay, let's first take a look at building a folding template and the different kinds that are available. There are several common types of folds. Letter folds have 2 folds and 3 panels. That's the kind that we are going to be building, although not quite like the one showing in the picture to the left here. These are often incorrectly called trifold because they result in 3 panels. The panel that folds in should be a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch narrower than the other 2 outside panels. Ask your service provider how much allowance is required for the paper you will be using. What they mean by service provider is the person that will be printing your actual brochure. The second kind of folds are called accordion folds, and the picture is very descriptive of what a accordion fold looks like. They're also referred to as a Z fold because it looks like the letter Z. Because the panels don't fold into one another, the accordion fold document has all its panels at the same width. Let's talk about the third kind. The double parallel folds are commonly used for 8-panel rack brochures. These are a much larger brochure. You don't see them as often because they are more expensive, but you will often find them in a hotel or a travel agency or like at a chamber of commerce. Again, the panels on the inside are narrower than those on the outside panel. This type of fold uses facing pages because the margins need to line up on the front and the back sides of the sheet. Next, we have what's called barrel folds, also called roll folds, which are perhaps more common fold for the 14-inch by 8.5-inch brochure. The two outside panels are full size, and each successive panel is narrower than the previous one. You can theoretically have as many panels as you want, but at some point the number of fold-in panels becomes unwieldy, so it is better to keep them relatively small. Last but not least is what's called gatefolds, which results in a 4-panel document. The paper is folded in half, and then each half is folded in half towards the center so that the two ends of the paper meet in the center. The panels that fold in are narrower than the two outside panels. This type of brochure allows two different spreads. The first is revealed when you open the outer panels, and the second is revealed when you open the two inner flaps. It is really important to consider the outside process when planning a job with documents that are not just a single sheet or standard size paper. Such a document with multiple pages folded one or more times or other non-standard pages. The mechanics of commercial printing require specific allowances for cutting, folding, and other finishing process. So you have to be really, really careful of this. And again, Dreamweaver is there to help us. InDesign is there to help us. There are two basic principles to remember when designing documents that fold. 1. Folding machines are mechanical devices, and paper sometimes shifts as it flows through the machine's paper path. Most are accurate to about 0.125, in other words, a bleed width. Okay? Number 2, paper has thickness. Thicker paper requires more allowances for the fold. So just keep that in mind as well. Because these two principles, any panel that folds into other panels needs to be smaller than the other panels. You should note that the issues presented here have little to do with subjective elements of design. Layout and page geometry are governed by specific variables, including mechanical limitation of the production process. These principles are rules, not suggestions. If you don't leave adequate margins, for example, design elements will be cut off or won't align properly from one page to the next. So you have to be very, very careful of the edges of the paper before you design. So the first thing that you need to do with any printing place that's going to be doing your work is to go to their facts page and read on the type of folds that you are planning on using and find out what the variances are, and make sure that you set them up just like what we are going to be doing in this document. And I will stress and talk about the shorter page, that's the fold page, that is smaller, and it happens twice. So I will make sure that you are very aware of it.